Bloomburrow spoilers keep coming out, and I wanted to share with you what to me are the most interesting uncommons so far. I could have ranked them, but I always think ranking, and particularly this early, is pretty silly. And you know which ones you like anyway. I don't, but you do. So without any particular order, let's go into it. First one, Bandit's Talent, a class. I could be biased with this one. I do like discarding my opponent. It's a famous deck in Modern that precisely does this. The rack deck, and it's just basically discard and you damage because the opponent doesn't have anything to play, right? Bandit's Talents, when Bandit Talents enters, its opponent discards 2 cards unless they discard a card that is not none. For 2 mana, kinda bad. Steel versus aggro, maybe worst best case scenario, you make them discard 2. They can choose, the opponent can choose and can decide. It's not that good, it's not that exciting. Whenever you force an opponent to discard and they're the ones choosing, is something that is not good. Now, you keep improving it for another swamp, and you can improve sorcery speed only, as far as I know, but you can, play in the same turn, improve it. And here is the rack type of effect. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if that player has 1 or fewer cards, they lose 2 life. Key being upkeep, not main phase, not because they haven't drawn yet, okay? So they interact with you on a step to try to kill your creatures, or to try to counter your spells. They're using resources. They will take more damage, right? It's only 2 life, but well, it's 3 mana already for this effect. Then for 4 more, at the beginning of your draw step, draw an additional card for each opponent who has 1 or fewer cards in hand. Kinda cool in endgame scenarios, where it's just top deck versus top deck, it's mid-range versus mid-range. And you can have Phyrexian Arena, but this doesn't, hurt you. And it's particularly good in that. Now, you're gonna say, like, you're fucking delusional. This card is trash. Hold up. I've been playing some mono black deck on MTG Arena. You can check it. I made a video about how I got to Mythic with it in a free-to-play account. Doing discard into Liliana, Phyrexian Arena is particularly strong in the format for multiple reasons. Versus aggro, you can do removal, Liliana, removal, and a threat. Versus control, you can do discard, and obviously you need to kind of have the right half of the deck in the right matchup. This is part of the format. In that case, in that type of environment, this thing can shine, okay? Might not be the best thing ever, but I like that the level 2 is just 1 swamp, and the other level is 4, so technically for 7, or you say 7, it starts being a lot, okay? But you can do 2, 1, and then the last one, the level 3, whenever you don't have cards in hand. Now, I'm not saying it's gonna be the best thing ever, but we've seen some other cards that this is a card that we has flashback, that you make an opponent discard a card. So we'll see what type of discards we get in this format. But honestly, maybe I push it to put it in this top 5 list, or in this list of the most interesting 5 most interesting combos so far. But I think it's at least something unique, and honestly, I'm gonna maybe try to force to play this in standard. Next, we have the Dread Drop Cure. Maybe one that might see play beyond standard. So you gift a card, that means that you can have an extended version of the sorcery effect. And if you do, because you're gifting a card, the opponent will draw a card, okay? I'm gonna get into that. But there's this mechanic in this format where you gift a card, you gift a 1/1 token feast, tap, and so on. So return up to 2 target creature cards, each with mana value 2 or less, from your graveyard to the battlefield. Okay, for 3 mana. And then if you give the opponent a card, the gift was promised, instead return up to 3 target creature cards, each with mana value 2 or less, from your graveyard to the battlefield. A lot of people are talking about how combo decks that use creature decks might use this, because 3 targets is an entire Amelia combo or whatever, right? Might be other combos in the future. 3 targets, even if it's just mana value 2 or less, 3 targets is a lot. I thought about running it in, like, I'm playing a mono white 2 deck that has Thalia, has Vanguard, and there's this card, the Infiltration Specialist, that whenever it comes, it's a 3/2. with Lifelink. Whenever it comes, you bring a value 2 to the table. Now, it's a body, it's better than this. Okay. But maybe it's a cyborg versus rats, maybe in combo decks, in other formats. And it can fill up that space of just getting value. Because after that, it's just for one card, you return 2. They need to die, of course, but I mean, your creatures are not dying. Depending on which deck are you using, it's particularly good. Obviously, the graveyard can be exiled, the creatures can be exiled, so they don't reach the graveyard. A lot can happen. I think the card for uncommon on 3 mana has potential. Pity that's not instant, but I guess that will be busted and will be complaining how the power creep is taking over, right? For 2 mana, 1 and a green is destroy target creature with flying, destroy target enchantment. Okay, they started mixing these two a long time ago, but now this draw a card in green, instant speed. So you destroy a creature with flying, niche, I'm aware. Destroy target enchantment, pretty huge, at least in the current format and standard. And then, worst case scenario, you are versus a deck that doesn't have enchantments, you just cycle it. And on top of that, you can pay another 2 and gain 3 life, because not only you draw a card, but you generate a full token. For a versatile flex uncommon like this, it's pretty interesting. Can be cyborg perhaps, and whenever maybe you drew the second one, you just cycle it. Or depending on how the game is. I think it's very, very good. There's the thing about this type of hate card. There was only the 2 first lines, destroy creature with flying, destroy enchantment. Those are the type of hate cards, right? That when you draw in the worst moment, it feels so bad. And that's why I feel like this card is so good, because worst case scenario, you cycle for 2 and you create a food token. Maybe you have some synergies too with the food coming in the next expansion. Coming next, the Swarm. I'm not gonna pronounce the first word, and you know it's better for everyone involved than I don't. Creature, elemental insect. Why not, right? Might as well. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature card you own in exile and in the graveyard. Menace, Death Touch. At that point, Menace, Death Touch, 6/6. I mean, you cast this, you're in a good position. The question is, how cheap can you cast this? And the other thing that is interesting too, right, is like normally this type of cards are very easily hated because you just do exile effects or exile the graveyard. But let me point this out. First of all, like 1 less to cast it costs for each creature card you own in exile and in your graveyard. I think it's a bit so funny that going, you know, pushing it to the point where this type of card no longer cares about your graveyard, but also your exile. I think it's a dangerous line to cross, because yeah, it starts with a 6/6 that touch menace uncommon, and you don't know where you're going next. But whatever, right? That's the key and the strength of this card, that if things get exiled, you can still cast it. People are already talking about modern with this card, because versus hate is very good. Whenever they cast Rest in Peace and you are a graveyard deck, it's gonna be very good. I won't go as far as that. Made a video about a card that I think is the most interesting, being Glarb, Calamity Augur, and I think it synergizes very well with this uncommon, because you surveil, you put the cards in the graveyard. There's a lot of things that mill you in the current format, so you can just keep putting creatures and cards in the graveyard, and then you just cast this Swarm very cheaply. And even the exile the graveyard, you know, it still goes through that. So I think this archetype of Glarb with graveyard creatures, there's a bunch of like type of Goif effects, right, in the format, I think can be interesting. I'm not gonna say it's gonna be broken or it's gonna be the way to go, but obviously this Swarm fits in that category. Okay, so for 7, I think you cast this for 3, even for 4, I think you're super happy. So I think 3 creatures in your graveyard is super crazy on curve. Particularly gonna have very good ways to do it. I won't play like 4 of them, obviously. Well, you can, because you surveil and you mill enough, maybe you just put them more in the graveyard. We will see what's the right amount. But I think it's that crazy that you can cast this for 3/4 and be happy about that. And for last, I have to include something that is either red or blue, so might as well, you know, combine both colors. Or you guys are gonna think that I hate blue and red. Stormcatch Mentor for 2. Progress, instant and sorcery speeds you guys cost 1 less to cast, Being a 1-1, I'm gonna say, well, that's pretty normal, even being 2-2. Yeah, but this one has haste. Now, doesn't fly, doesn't have trample. I'm aware of that, but you're talking about blue-red creature, okay? Not a red creature. It was mono red, yeah, it will be have flying, haste, +2, +0, and then instant and sorcery spells cost 1 less to cast and 2 more for your opponent, and trample, and you exile the top of your deck, right? You get what I mean, but in this case, this is also blue, so it compensates a little bit. Still, jokes aside, haste progress, being blue, you don't need to cast this on curve, turn 2. You can, there are things you can plot turn 1. There is the saga, then you can come turn 2 as a 2-2 or as a 3-3, depending. So you can definitely do that, but being a blue-red card with instant and sorcery spell, you cast cost 1 less to cast. You can do on turn 1 some other creature, and then cast this once you have a turn 2 or turn 3 and has some protection on top of the plot enchantment or whatever. So I think it's the haste already in something that makes your sorting spells cost 1 less to cast. It's very interesting because then you have the counter just ready, and hey, they don't cast anything, you probably have a cantrip for 2 mana for sure, and you can keep drawing spells to buff this thing. So particularly interesting card. I still think like blue-red is gonna be as good as Gruul or mono-red in the future standard, but we'll see these other wizards, how good they get, what other supports we get, and we'll see in general what's the progress deck to choose in the future standard with Bloomburrow. So that's all. I just wanted to make a fast video because I think the spoilers have been cool and there's really very interesting uncommons. So tell me in the comments, please, what you think about this, which one you like. Honestly, I'm like the black cards, these black uncommons, I'm liking them a lot. There's some blue uncommons that I haven't addressed that are also interesting. And red, honestly, feels like very strong cards in the spoiler, but the rares and mythic rares are the ones that really shine in the spoiler compared to the others. As the cards keep coming out, if they see more interesting stuff, I'll comment on it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.